Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. We welcome you to today's DevOps.com webinar brought to you by TechStrong and Mezmo. My name is Jared Harris, and I'll be your host for today's program. We've got an exciting program ahead of you, but before we begin, I do have a few housekeeping notes. Today's event is being recorded, so if you miss any of our discussion or you would like to share this with a friend, the on-demand version will be made available to you shortly after the webinar concludes, with a link to access as well. If you have any questions, we'd like for you to submit them in the Q&A tab on the right side of your screen. This is also where you will find the chat tab. We want you to engage with our speaker, today's speaker, and also with your fellow audience members. Share your thoughts or just tell us where you are turning in from. Finally, at the conclusion of today's webinar, we will be giving away 4 $25 Amazon gift cards, so be sure to stick around for those. Let's go ahead and kick off today's webinar. The topic is what is an observability pipeline with Sasikanth Vadlamudi, Senior Product Manager, Observability Pipeline at Mezmo. At this time, it's my pleasure to turn that program over to you, Sasikanth.
Sasikanth, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jared. Good afternoon, good day, good morning, everyone. And thanks a lot for joining us today for this very exciting topic, what is an observability pipeline? And first of all, I wanted to, come out of the gate and say, hey, this probably might not be the first presentation or webinar you've heard about observability and pipelines, majority of them coming from a vendor-specific aspect. But what we have today and the main agenda is to talk about the problems that exist today in the wild when you talk about observability and explore the problem space in depth. Right, we will talk about the problems that plague organizations today in their observability journey, and from there we will pick up some of the key aspects of it, and we will cover some basic first principles of observability, how companies should view observability as a problem before jumping onto the solution bandwagon. So without any further delay, let's get into this. Concept. Before talking about observability pipeline and all of it, I want to quickly introduce Mezmo. We were previously called LogDNA, a very, moderately famous log management tool with over 3,400 supporting customers, majority of them happy customers like IBM, Red Hat, Better, Shopify, and Rappi. And for the past 4 years, we have been having sustained market momentum. With our LogDNA, we were able to reach greater than 5 petabytes of data ingested monthly. We're close to 160 employees today, which is growing a total of $95 million raised, the Dragon. And we came out into the market as a log management tool, but now we are pivoting into Mezmo with the basic vision of empowering teams with observability data. We'll talk about multiple aspects of it, but at a very high level, simplifying access when it comes to ingesting observability data. When I say simplifying access, how to make easy for people to get their data in, and make it easy for users to take control of data wherever they are using enterprise organizational management aspects of it. And control in the sense there is spike protection aspects of it, variable detentions, restorations, controlling the content of data, and probably being able to take actions through searching, alerts, and visualization. At a very high level, we will talk about these things in detail as and when we move close to towards the end of it. But just wanted to give you a brief introduction of who Mezmo is and where we are at this point of time. All right. So that's the company side of things. We will quickly move into the first problem that we're going to talk about when it comes to observability, which is the cost curve problem. I definitely believe, at least when it comes to log volume or any other telemetry data volume, you would have faced this curve problem before, where you can see these two things: time on the x-axis, volume on the y-axis. And when you map the cost and the value that you get out of these observability data, this is how it looks. while the cost increases linearly. For some companies, it increases exponentially, whereas there's always the law of diminishing returns for the value that you get out of the telemetry data. And the main reason, I think, the propensity that pushes companies into this is every company going through digital transformation, which means you're breaking down your big monolith services into microservices, and which allows people to adopt increasing technology out there that complicates collecting more data, more moving parts to your application, which means more machine data, you're relying on it, and there is need for storing all that data for observability, for security, and for compliance. So as companies start growing on this digital transformation, this perpetual loop means that you are always facing this cost curve problem, right? Budgets are definitely reducing a lot, but the business data that you need to make sense out of your business, or to be able to serve customers, is never going down. But the value that these observability tools provide you, they always follow the diminishing returns. What this cost curve, and why this is important for you, is for most of the organizations that are already in the path in their observability journey, this is something that you will definitely hit. That you will start with small amounts of data, you get very high value out of that very quickly, and then you sign up that big contract with a SaaS vendor, and then soon enough you'll realize that there are so many use cases that are applicable in the observability space, and so you start pushing more data, and more data means more noise. More noise means less understanding of what is happening, and the value, the tool that was supposed to give us observability, suddenly becomes almost like a data swamp where you can't do anything, and that's where the value goes down, but the cost keeps on increasing linearly or exponentially. Uh, and in order to tackle these problems, the observability initiatives, which are initially focused on getting value, they immediately turn into cost cutting exercises. When you're starting to collect more metrics, you have monitoring and you understand the implication, but there is a high severity incident, and you realize that there is a specific monitor that did not go up. You immediately add more to that monitoring because you want to capture that as a known rather than an unknown. So there is a perpetual cycle of more data means more observability, but the costs are the only thing that increase and not the value out of it. And soon enough, the observability initiatives fall into cost-cutting aspects, cutting down telemetry, which itself is not a bad thing, because the more you try to understand what your data is and cut down the noise out of the data, the more users will be able to, or the users of these tools will be able to understand their data better. But these initiatives are now squarely focused on cost cutting rather than getting value out of it. So organizations at some point would look to balance these aspects, and this is one of the most important thing that defines how your observability initiatives progress in your company. Quickly moving on to the business impacts, right? Yes, the cost aspects are there, but what are the severe business impacts of this extraordinary amount of data that doesn't prove to be as valuable as you thought? The first problem is the more data, the less control there is. Data is scattered across dozens of systems and applications. The volume itself is unpredictable. It is erratic at times, and it increases continuously, right? The more the data, the systems that really try to bring out the insights of this data, now they have a problem of managing this data effectively, which means that your queries get slow, and your alerting tools get slow, and who takes care of the context? Okay, some of the data is not human readable. Uh, did you lose me?
Yeah, it looks like if you just want to go back.
Is it on now?
Yeah, we're good now. If you can just go back a few more sentences.
Okay. So I'm talking about the severe business impacts, the lack of control, data being scattered across dozens of systems, and the volume is erratic. So it's difficult to identify where to apply the tuning aspects, and the noise is high, which means that it is so difficult to find the signal within the noise. Okay, and then how to find the false positives, because now you have more data, so there are tools that will help you monitor that data and put thresholds and conditions and alerts and all of it. Now your pages are blowing all the time, right? When your pages are blowing all the time, you're being distracted from the real valuable work that you're doing for your customer. So it's not just a cost problem anymore, it's a value problem as well. So even for companies who can throw money at this problem, storage and all of it, it is a big issue, because when it comes to context, that will go next, it is highly important for you to think about how your systems are collecting data, how much control do you have, and when you know more about your system, can I easily go back without instrumenting and implementing everything and releasing a new app? Can I change all of this on the fly? Becomes a bigger problem. Lack of context. Systems sending data across, so the biggest challenge becomes, hey, how do I make it human readable? How do I make it standardized in a standardized format for everybody to understand that, hey, this is what the metadata and the data actually means. If you don't solve that problem, then there is a lot of manual shuffling that happens, and in order to achieve insight, you have all the data, but the real toil that it takes to get insights of data becomes extremely challenging, right? So data coming in different format, your system should be able to understand, hey, if this is where the data is coming, then this is where the value is. So it becomes imperative for solutions to really make sense out of that data. And today, many tools can say that, hey, I have a specific AI or something to be able to understand these patterns. It's imperative for organizations to think about this context, not only while instrumenting their applications, but also where they are collecting these things. Is there a metadata aspect that I need to take care of that will make the job easier for the SREs and the troubleshooters out there, right? So lack of context is as important as the cost aspect of it. And then finally, the lack of actionability. Yes, we have dashboard. So we have good control of data. We can handle the storage and we can handle the compute aspect of it. And yeah, our instrumentation is good. We have all the context, but all the context in the world is not equal to actionable insights out of it. There are some patterns. If you really start to comb down the patterns that your data that has full context, it is humanly impossible for you to be able to do that when there is an incident out there. So manual pattern detection negatively impacts the time on the MTTR, and analysis and interpretation of data is also dependent on the skill. So oftentimes when people who have good control on the data cause, they think they have managed it, and maybe they have addressed the lack of context by properly instrumenting, will still have to worry about putting people in the right jobs. I mean, those SREs need to be top notch, who would be able to understand anything that is happening. So oftentimes companies get into this where their SREs are their subject matter experts, and it's not easy for anybody newly joining a team to be able to understand and make sense out of data, right? So there is a skill level of an individual engineer that really limits the lack of actionability, despite you scaling the challenges of control and context. Right? So engineers then rely on other teams to locate and contextualize. You might have seen this problem manifest as war rooms in organization, where they have to bring in 160 to 70 people to really understand, comb the patterns, and do all those things. So these are the things that severely impact your ability to do proper business in terms of observability. right? So it's not just about your ability to quickly collect data, transport it, or properly instrument it. You have to think about all of these intentionally to lay down the foundations before you build a strong tooling on top of your observability data, right? So moving on, uh, even before, we talk about how these observability problems impact businesses. What does a proper solution look like? Like if somebody wants to think about tooling for their observability, yeah, you're all aligned on the problem statement. But when people start putting their observability tech stack, what do they need to look into? I want to spend some time on this observability aspect of it, right? I don't want to bring in a new or an old, definition of observability from the control theory discipline and apply that here. I would like to break it into first principles, everything that we know to be true, right? Uh, First principle, I think, in observability is, I think we hope to know that there is a problem even before your customer knows it. This is paramount. I mean, you cannot impact your customer, your customer experience and all of it by not knowing about a problem before your customer. So majority of observability tools out there, vendors, try to address this problem using monitoring and alerting to the extent possible, to as much as possible. But what happens when you try to get in all the data before your customer? It obviously, there is an issue, right? All those alerts will keep coming in, but they are not actionable alerts really, right? Because there is high signal to sorry low signal to noise ratio, which means majority of those pagers will just be acknowledged, and then they don't do anything. And soon enough there will be a P1 on those acknowledged but forgotten alerts that will pop up every now and then, that will take your business down for 5 hours. So during the postmortems, now they will go back and say, hey, oh yeah, this is the alert that we have, we have paused. And yeah, why did you pause? Because there are 7,000 alerts. I definitely, I have worked in companies where on a given day, infrastructure team getting anywhere between 3,500 to 4,000 important alerts coming in, right? We talked about context. If your data doesn't have enough context, you have to treat all those alerts equally, right? Because if without context, you cannot separate it out. You cannot bucket them out. Without an alert saying that, hey, this is an application issue, but this only serves our our content pages, not the product pages. So I can ignore it. So we have to defeat the first come first serve approach with alerts, and you're not able to do that because none of those alerts are actionable. There are some tools that say, hey, we have, oh, we will track all your SLOs. But even with SLOs, you have the granularity problem. You're looking at metrics data, creating SLOs on top of it, or log data, creating metrics on top of it, or trace data, creating metrics on top of it. There isn't. What is really important is how do we look at this, the whole of the information in a unified way. That's what defines whether the SLO or whatever it is indicative of a customer impact, or it's an indicative of a system problem. And there would be thousand problems in the system that you manage today, and not all of them are important. So the actionable alerts is a big issue that limits a lot of these tools' ability to deliver value. And even if you're able to get some actionability into the alerts, the faster triage is only possible when you're able to link all the different signals. Metrics telling you where it went wrong, it directly indicating some area where this problem might be, and the log showing where the issue can be, and the traces can help you how to which is that specific function or which is a specific version of app that is causing this problem. So linkage between these signals is extremely important, and just by having complete monitoring and alerting is not going to solve the problem, right? You have to know before your customer. But if you don't have actionable alerts, and if you don't institute those things to fast expedite your triage, you will still not be able to achieve your problems. So now you have context, and now you have everything, so you know things about your customer. The second bucket is, yes, I mean, you can't put the whole root cause analysis inside a tool. It is not possible even for machines. So you have combination of things, but you need to understand the system a lot more by analyzing these signals, right? You have to aggregate some of those. You have to slice and dice high cardinality data, which means, hey, I see this metric being plummeted during the past 15 minutes, but can you get for what customer this is impacted? Or can you slice and dice that high cardinal data today as effectively as you can? You can. Tools definitely will allow you. But what that means is you're not sampling any of the data. You're storing everything that you can in order to get there. So there is a balance between, you can get to the analysis, but at what cost, right? So that's problem number one. The second problem is you cannot capture all the context. You cannot, account for all the known knowns while instrumenting, while creating thresholds and all of it. There is a lot of context and metadata that happens on the fly, very close to when problem occurs. Your systems need to be able to enrich data on the fly with those signals. So there is some instrumentation that happens at metrics level, at traces level, logs level. There are some metrics that you want to collect. But there is so much of information that happens before an incident. And these events, which are instrumented at the source or in the pipeline, they are unaware of what the new change in data is going to be. So enriching that data, enriching that context of problem on the fly becomes equally important, because if you really have somebody looking at a screen for 15 minutes, and if there is an incident in the 16th minute, there is a good chance that that person will immediately catch it, right? Because they are looking at data, and data that is coming 10 or 15, 20 minutes just before a high urgency incident is more important, that captures more information than all the data that you can store in the database. So enriching data on the fly, be it metrics, traces, and logs. A metrics data comes in, you enrich that information into the logs that are flowing, and you make it more, actionable. So those kinds of enriching data on the fly becomes extremely important. Similarly, customer transaction data. There is so much of value and so much of data that organizations collect on customer experience, what they are clicking, what is the problem that they're seeing. Being able to channelize all that information, overlay it on top of these problems, metrics, traces, and logs, is extremely important. But today we are not able to do that because of the access side of things. How do I quickly take a telemetry pipeline and ingest that customer data in order to overlay this? There is no simple solution and in a cost-effective manner that this can happen, right? So thinking about enhancing your data, enriching your data beyond the logs, metrics, and traces is paramount for you to not only get to the problem faster, but understanding who is it impacting and how do you take remedial actions for those customers is extremely important as well, right? And then detecting key state changes. And oftentimes I've seen organizations where they get good at monitoring, they good at alerting. So their application stack, their actual application business logic stack is maturing all the time. But if you don't apply the same concepts to infra, your versions and your infrastructure on which your applications run, you will run into similar problems. Your mean time to detection and mean time to response will be impacted. You need to be able to understand key state changes of infra, config, and any app versions to be able to pinpoint where the problem might have occurred, right? So, and then oftentimes, even if you're able to do that, keeping a close eye on throughputs and latencies of your application is equally important, and how it is changing across time. And when it changes across time, what is happening across other systems? What are the logs that are flowing? What are the metrics that are being impacted? And what does customer transactions look like? Overlaying all of this information is extremely important, right? So we have now talked about knowing the problems before your customers, but making it more actionable and faster to triage. And now you're talking about understanding the system better, because you cannot account for all the unknown unknowns ever. And these unknown unknowns are not magic information that you're missing. This is information that exists in your data, but the tools are not allowing you to slice and dice it in a way, and your instrumentation and your pipelines are not able to enrich that data on the fly. So if you know it before the problem occurs, you can instrument it for And if you don't instrument it, and while the problem is happening, you don't have a mechanism to enrich that data on the fly, then you will always face the problem of unknown unknowns. So being able to capture what is happening in the system, being able to analyze those events, slicing and dicing data, is what helps you understand the system better, right? So the last one, people talk about this problem as the needle in the haystack kind of a thing, right? And which is true, because if you follow the paradigm of collect everything, throw it into the system, and mix it with everything else, index it, and then write queries on top of it, you're obviously creating that problem for yourself, right? You're saying that, hey, I'm throwing this thing in, and then there are 1,000 other things that fall on it, and then I can't find the root cause of this. And that's why enriching the context on the fly is almost like you're telling the system that, hey, this looks like a needle. I'm not sure about it, but this definitely looks like a needle. And then to the system. Now what you have is like needles, and things that can be ignored because it's pure hay, right? If you don't do that on the fly enrichment of what is a needle, what is an important thing, and what is not, at query time it becomes extremely important. You have to write 1,000 queries to understand or segregate those things. So analyzing data in motion, right, and then capturing that, hey, something is happening with this data that is important, and I'm able to correlate this to a metric change, to a latency issue with the traces. That is most important for you if you want to zero in on potential root causes, right? Because it doesn't happen magically, right? If you instrument it, you try to analyze data in motion, you enrich the data as it moves through the pipeline on the fly, you will be able to correlate on those things that change, right? And once you do that, you can surface the potential root cause. You can say that, hey, these are the things that started looking as needles, and as we learned more about the data, we have eliminated some false positives. So this is a list of 10 different things that you can probably look at to understand where the problem might be. I know a lot of solutions talk about anomaly detection and all of it, but those solutions are also plagued by this concept of garbage data in, garbage data out. So if you don't enrich anything, systems cannot enrich because they don't have the business logic. So they cannot tell you what is a needle and what is what is non-important information. So they have to apply all the scientific algorithms in it to find 5 different sets of things that look like needle and all of it. So that's where the technology can help you, but you need to enrich it because as a user what to instrument and how to enrich the data moving forward. I know I spent a lot of time on this, but this forms the foundation as to how you think about your observability tooling when you try to fix it. You should be able to know before your customers, but with actionable alerts and faster triage. You should be able to analyze all the data that you're, connecting and slice and dice it. You need to be able to enrich the data on the fly. You need to apply context as the data flows in, because not everything can be instrumented, not everything can be accounted for. So you need to be able to enrich data for the unknowns that you just realized might happen. And then key state changes overlaid, the CI/CD changes, and all of it can give you, a potential root cause. Oh, this probably might be. Because when it comes to observability, mean time to mitigate is most important. If a system is down, we are not so much sure about why this happened, but how to get back the system. So detecting those state changes might not help you find the root cause, but it quickly helps you mitigate those issues. And then if you want to zero in on potential root cause, being able to correlate data, analyze data in motion, and surface those potential root causes for a human interaction is extremely important, right? So quickly moving on, this is just the usual observability thing that I'm putting out, nothing related to any solutions out there, including Mezmo. And now what we will do is we will move on to how Mezmo is trying to solve this problems that we keep talking about. And the 3 key drivers for us is these are not drivers for Mezmo as such. This is what customers are looking for, is you have access and you have control of the data. We are not the kind of solution that would say, hey, you know what, throw the data to us and we will give you magically the observability. We're saying that you have to spend a lot of time at the ingestion itself. If you want to control it, you need to be able to understand how data is going, what kind of enrichment that you want to do, how do you want to reshape the data that is coming in. But at the same time, we're also solving those very basic problems of, hey, I know you're sending a lot of data. There would be storage aspects, there would be retention problems that you have, and you might have to send data into an archive and restore it at a later time. So we are definitely solving for those problems. But with Access, we are doing that when with an open platform that lets you centralize your data from any source, and the processing capability of the pipeline, we are giving you an opportunity to control it before the data leaves for its destination. Right? That's the first big pillar. How do we make it easy for users to send data and control the data before it reaches the destination? Is one of the biggest focuses that we are focusing now. And an equally important driver is actionable insights, right? So we talked about this enrichment and correlation, and I don't that was not a shameless plug. That's how we believe observability should be done. So enriching this data and correlating this data in motion, adding context to data, right? It provides more insight than anything else, right? That insight will make you take the decisions faster. Today we are talking about enriching, cross signal enrichment, and all of it. But soon enough, there would be some pivotal changes as to how you view the actionable insights. What are the advantages of looking at this in a streaming sense, and putting everything on the fly and accounting for that is another big focus. So actionable insights totally drive real-time intelligence with Mezmo. And the most important thing, I know we talked about this, there is always a value problem with observability. So we have a strong focus of showing that time to value faster than any other solution. Right? If your problem is controlling data, quick solution we provide to quickly take that toil out of your hands. If you're struggling to find actionable insights when it comes to time to value, we take that very seriously, and we surface those actionable insights, but we use the pipelining and all the enrichment capability to make those insights even more pop out during your troubleshooting session, right? And seamless onboarding is most important, because we talk about if you make it easy for developers and others to send data, they will start sending it and they will test the platform. They will start getting data and value out of the data fast enough. But if they are blocked at the cost aspect of it, what will happen if I send this data? The centralized platform team did not allow me to send it. Then it's difficult for any organization to get the value out of the data. So we want to make it extremely seamless when it comes to onboarding. And also the data is ingested in the most efficient way possible, so that it can help you with your analysis, right? And Mezmo, I know we talked about it. It had a very successful native log analysis module built right into it that allows you to take action sooner on that log data. But with Mezmo pipeline, we are becoming more and more open to all kinds of data and not limit ourselves to the log analysis side of things. Right. So 3 key value drivers: access and control, how to quickly get data, how to solve enterprise concerns, user RBACs, and all of those administrative concerns as you get the data in, how to protect you from those spikes that happen in the storage limits or whatever, in the retentions and all of it, how to protect you as a user from it, and then taking the actionable insights pillar, how to make data work for you faster. How do you add context to the data? How do you get real-time intelligence is actionable insights. Faster time to value. We're directly attacking that lack of value as data goes up, lack of value problem, by making it easy for the data to come in, and with the enrichment, you will find more and more value as in when you start sending more data through the pipeline. Okay, so 3 actionable drivers. And towards, I know I didn't want to talk about this much, but observability pipeline, it is basically a cloud-based pipeline to control, enrich, and correlate machine data across domains, with a strong focus on the analysis aspect of it. We talk about actionable insights. This is where it is. So observability pipeline allows you to enrich, correlate, transform, and analyze your telemetry data, and any destination, any source. This is a driving force for us. Make it easy for customer to send data from anywhere, and don't put any limits on where the data can go. They can use their existing tooling. They can send it wherever they want, and Mezmo's log analysis can also be one of the destinations, but you're not logged into that specific part. You can send the data anywhere where you believe a strong value can be derived. Right. So moving into the access and control, I know I talked about it. A quick product snapshot here. This is how our, the pipeline topology looks like. You can add any source, take any HTTP, put any HTTP endpoint as a source, collect data over it. You can apply all the transforms, parsing, filter by JSON, and all the processing capabilities, and you send the data to destinations. Key aspects of it: any source, any destination. We talked about it. Filtering of data, exclusion rules, spike protection, the things that I talked about, variable retention, and restoration of data from archive, are the key aspects that drive the access and control. Towards the end of it, I'll leave an outreach email that can help you quickly, get in touch with somebody at Mezmo to get you on these pipelines and test the value for yourself. Stay tuned for that. We talked about actionable insights. This is the screen that you are looking at here with the data and the processors that we have to sample data, filter, deduplicate, route, lookup, parse, and transform. We make these data actionable with auto and custom parsing. The boards and screens aspect of it. The specific thing that you're seeing is the enrichment. If you know that the data is coming from a Kubernetes node, a component, we automatically tack on the cube stacks, the CPU, the remaining memory. So this is the enrichment aspect of it. You're overlaying the metrics and the performance aspect of all of it into the log data. So while you look at the logs, you're also aware of what is happening on the health of that Kubernetes cluster or node that you're running it on. Data enrichment and correlation, you'll see more and more of those use cases in our subsequent demos. But the K8s enrichment is here, and we are also strongly focusing on the OTel integration, because as a framework, as an implementation, that's one thing that has a strong focus on being developer friendly and being able to control, unify your telemetry. So OTel integration and the investments on that is a big focus for us moving forward. The next, faster time to value, you'll be able to see more boards and views here, which is predominantly applying filters on the enriched data, because you with the pipeline you enrich a lot of data, applying those filters and see and group that data into meaningful things. Here you can see that they're grouped by response codes, you're grouped by prod monitoring, you're grouping it by warnings, you're grouping it by scheduling errors, scaling events, runtime. So effectively you're making reducing the toil for the user, because if you are part of an SRE organization and this view helps you, you create it for everybody and everybody can look at those things. So we are trying to create those aspects of value everywhere by grouping these things. This is our native log analysis tool that I wanted to show to indicate the faster time to value. So if you're sending data through that pipeline, you'll be able to see those log aspects because Mezmo's log analysis is a potential destination for all of it, right? Scalability and performance, we briefly touched on it. I mean, we broke the scale of 5 petabytes per month. So we are definitely ready for the enterprise level workloads when it comes to scalability and performance. Our search is we take good pride in being able to say that, hey, if you know how to search Google, you'll be able to search for your logs in Mezmo's log analysis, because it's NLP based. You'll be able to talk to your system and get that information. And we have all the bells and whistles, jumping to the time frame, being able to visually correlate the errors, color code those things, save a part of it, and make it easy for the customers. to get maximum value out of their logs. All right. I think some parting thoughts. I know these product screenshots show you the current state, but I also want to talk a little about how we view observability is not a be all end all in itself. We we acknowledge that it is a path that organizations have to take, which means that many people start with metrics or logs, they add on the other signal, and then they finally wrap it up with traces. Is that end of observability? Maybe, maybe not. And we view that as a journey, the path to observability. Most organizations uh, start with a reactive approach. We talked about it. Hey, oh yeah, we saw this. We need to throw some monitoring on it, be it metrics or logs, and then we have to have an alerting mechanism that does it. And most of the times, the key capabilities that you're looking are the use cases for IT ops. We are able to send that data, parse the data, exclude the data, and then we're monitoring and we are alerting on top of it. Yes, that's at best reactive and ad hoc. For companies who are more planned, what they do is they think about data control. Okay, they think about uh, control and access and analysis. They think about routing. They think about aggregating, filtering, sampling, remapping, and all the concerns of unifying this telemetry, not just putting a monitoring and alerting mechanism on top of logs or metrics or any one single aspect of it. So during this plan, I think the usage, the persona that comes out often is the DevSecOps aspect of it. It's not just about one single team. It's about how do you manage the end-to-end aspect as a team. That's where the DevSecOps thing comes in. When you go up a level in your observability journey, you're looking at that optimized team where they don't really worry about what kind of data gets in. They're more worried about the logic that you apply, because now they have solved the problem of cost effectively sending any data from any source into the pipeline using pipelines. Of course, they are more worried about the data logic. They're more worried about, hey, I know this data goes to this destination. Is there any analysis that we can do while it reaches there? Because there is critical information en route today that might give me something. So they are more worried about the data analysis in motion. And during that time, enrichment and correlation becomes number one priority. Right? Advanced remapping, key capabilities that they'll be after, or transforming data, reshaping your data, bidirectional correlations between A to B, B to A. I mean, your log says your metrics, and your metric says that, hey, this is what your log. So it doesn't matter where you start, you reach the other aspect of it. We are slowly growing from the DevSecOps to the data ops aspect of it now. And data ops and transformation, that being the next one, you're talking about cross-domain insights and organizational transformation. Any data that your company today generates out of business is worthy of an observability solution. I mean, that needs to be in the observability solution, because we talk about enrichment and correlation. Where does this come from? The source of it is business data, transactional data, market dynamics, whatever it is. So cross-domain insights and organizational transformation happens at that time. And the approach would be real-time cross-correlation, intelligent processing. We need our pipelines to be a lot more smarter than they are today. Conditional logics, some key capabilities that you would want at that time, triggered webhooks and APIs. You want your data to be able to flow more seamlessly into anything to get that required insight into your tool, right? And at that level, your observability key tech stack is basically usable by the entire organization. We are not limiting ourselves to specific personas during that time. And an entire organization should be finding value in that tool. So when we think about observability, we are not thinking about one specific use case. We are thinking about how companies, progress in this path, and we are laying down the right solutions and the capabilities, and we are going after the right problems to take a company from the reactive mode to manage to proactive and strategic transformation. Right? So with that, I conclude the presentation. I want this to be the parting thought, that observability is never about logs, traces, and metrics and then done. It's about understanding insight. So as much data you expose it to your tool, it should be able to give you as much value. I sincerely hope that this helped at least uncover the basic problems and how companies should look at observability as a whole. We talked about some vendor issues with some vendor solutions, and we talked about how our approach as Mezmo Pipeline is trying to address those core capabilities with customer-centric innovation. And this to be the parting thought. It's never a one year or a 1 month journey. It's a path to observability, and the more you go up there, your observability tool stack should be able to deliver value in a consistent pace. Thanks for spending time with us. If you are interested in reaching out to know more about how we deal these observability problems and what our solution set looks like, please go to outreach@mezmo.com and send your thoughts. I'm more interested in understanding whether the problem side of things resonated with you. And if you're thinking around the same lines, you're definitely in the right track by thinking about Mezmo. We'd love to have those conversations as to what your organizational needs are and how we can help get them. Thank you very much. We'll take any questions. I know we have close to 15 minutes. I'd love to have any specific questions that you have at this time.
All right, so we did get a few questions that came in, and if anyone else has any more, feel free to submit those in the Q&A on the right side of your screen. The first question is, how long do you advise that the database be maintained, especially when it hasn't been revisited for insights in years? What's important and what's not?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I would. There are aspects to handle this specific thing, right? When you talk about observability pipeline, you're not only trying to monitor everything that happened. You're not only thinking about the batch processing and sending it to someplace. You're also thinking about the data that changes in the database, right? So the concept of change data capture is a new one in the pipeline thing. So what it does is it doesn't really try to collect everything, but it collects the delta that happened in the last 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. That information is extremely important for you when it comes to observability, right? That kind of data, that kind of change in state of database should be able to, you should be able to view that in correlation with what is happening across. So directly, I'm not able to answer that, but how long do you advise that databases be maintained, especially when it hasn't been revisited for insights in years? I might not have a direct recommendation of this is how long it will be, but at least the most important aspects, when something changes in data, if it is the volume, it is the type of, the metadata will help you understand what is important and what is not. So if you just think about the important metadata changes in that and channeling it into the observability pipeline, and some tool will be able to pick it up and make sense out of it with the enrichment that we talk about. I would love to go deep into it, but let's visit the other questions, and maybe I'll come back if it didn't answer your question.
Sure. And then do you support time series data?
Today, as of today, we don't, but support for metrics is definitely something we are looking into. And again, this Mezmo being an observability pipeline, our strong focus now is to be able to take that data and transport it to any destination that you're already using today in a most efficient manner. So access and control is the main focus for us when we think about metrics. We're not probably thinking about in the lines of being a backend for these metrics, but soon enough we will have a solution to tackle this as well. As of today, we don't, but we support transporting of that data to a third-party destination that is already tackling your time series needs.
And can your log analysis be a source for source solutions?
Yes. So we did talk about, so the main concept of the Mezmo pipeline, it treats the main components as sources, and then you have transforms, and then you have destinations. So we are ramping up our support to these destinations. Every quarter, we are focusing on bringing in more destinations that mean a lot to the customers. And we do have some existing destinations that tackle this. but you can basically use that as a source to the others, because that becomes a destination for Mezmo, and we can do that. For a list of all available sources, I would definitely send an email to that outreach thing. You'll have a clear understanding of what those solutions that we are able to support today as a destination.
And how does this integrate with something like ISTO or Envoy for service mesh?
Yeah. So again, we are today more focused. We already have a solution about logs. We are ramping up our support on the hotel aspect as well. Istio and the Envoy for service mesh, I would probably put that into the contextual data bucket. As of today, we don't have out of the box support to take in Istio data. But yeah, we consider all of this to be contextual data that helps you in the enrichment that we talked about. So soon enough, we'll have something to address in one form or the other. But today, out of the box, it is not.
All right. And we've got another question that's any recommendations on how to track data sources that stop sending log data?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the key development things that are currently being worked on is about this data visibility. Data visibility is nothing but, hey, I know some data is flowing into the system, but where is this flowing from? To be able to discover those sources and be able to see that some data is flowing, and then putting uh, either spike protection or probably eliminating, filtering out data from that specific source is something that is possible, is definitely possible today. But if you want that to be a more generic solution as to, hey, I never want to ingest any data that is coming from, let's say, this specific syslog instance, there are exclusion rules that can help you today to put those static rules and stop sending log data. Or you can say to pipeline that don't accept this log data from this source. But the discoverability of it automatically is not there. So rule-based is already present today with Mezmo.
All right. That is everything for questions that we've got at the moment. That was outstanding. Thank you very much. Sasikanth, and thank you for taking the time to share all of your expertise with us. I just want to send out a quick reminder that if there are more questions coming in, go ahead and put those in. Today's program is recorded. Following the panel, you will receive an email to a link to access the recording. You can also find the recording on the devops.com website. Just go to devops.com/webinars. Look in the on-demand section, and it will be waiting for you as there.
Thank you.
As I mentioned in the beginning of the session, we will be giving out the 4 gift card winners, and I'm going to go ahead and announce those to Carrie S., Alejandro G., Wade S., and Emily H. Congratulations to the 4 of you. Please keep an eye out in your inbox. Make sure you check your spam. Sometimes they do appear in there if you don't receive anything. Again, thank you everyone for joining us today. Sasikanth, do you have any more final notes?
Final thoughts? Yeah, absolutely. I'd love for all of you to, reach out to us to get yourself set up with a pipeline. If you quickly have some data to send and explore everything that we talked about today, it's going to be it's a very, very exciting. We also have workshops. So probably with the outreach, we probably will be sending out and directing you to the workshops that guide you towards these capabilities. So please definitely give it a try. You will not be disappointed.
All right, excellent. And lastly, I'd like to thank Mezmo for sponsoring today's webinar. And again, thank each of you for attending the entirety of the program. Please take a moment to fill out the post-webinar survey that'll be popping up here in just a moment. And again, my name is Jared Harris, and I will be signing out. Thank you.
Thank you very much.